Championship is the most unpredictable league in the world. So guess what? We're going to try and predict it. And we're going to try and predict it before the transfer window has even opened. So we're going to get this hugely wrong, let's be honest. But we're going to give it a go and just let everybody know what my kind of feelings are towards each team going into the new season. If you're a fan of Championship content, please do hit subscribe on this channel. Daily Championship content on this page. If you wouldn't mind taking 1 second out to hit subscribe, it really would mean a lot. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you wouldn't mind hitting subscribe, as I say, you won't regret it. That'd be very greatly appreciated. And also drop a like while you're down there as well. And let's just jump straight into it. So we've got a lot of categories here that we're going to be obviously separating a lot of teams into a lot of different categories. So we've got automatic promotion / winning the league. We've got playoffs, who I think are pretty nailed on to get playoffs. We've got teams that are going to be in the playoff battle, in my opinion. They're going to be in and around the playoffs come the end of the season, which, to be fair, in the Championship is normally a lot of clubs. Like, you look at last season until, well, this season, last season, however you want to say it, there was a lot of teams that were in the playoff picture until a few weeks until the end of the season. And even like Blackburn and Millwall got themselves back in there and then they almost ended up sneaking in. So there's going to be a lot of teams in that playoff battle. Then we've got Boring, who I just think they're not going to have a mid-table battle. They're not going to have a promotion battle or playoff battle, and they're not going to have a relegation battle. Then we've got relegation battle, I think are going to be in and around the drop zone, which again, it's a lot of teams in the Championship. If you look at last season or this season, you had so many teams in and around that bottom end of the table that were all looking over their shoulders at different points. And then we've got relegation, who I think are nailed on to get relegated. Now, West Brom, they had a tough season last season. There's no line. They were in the playoff battle last season for the vast majority of it, but then as it got to the end of the season, just the wheels came off. Tony Mowbray lost it, and they ended up finishing outside of the playoffs. But you'd still say last season was a playoff battle because they were involved in it for the vast majority of the season. So West Brom, I think, will be in and around the playoff battle again. They've got to go into the transfer market. They've got to get the right appointment as well. But I'm confident West Brom, they're always in and around it at the end of the season, aren't they? At the top end of the Championship. So I don't think it'll be any different. I can't see West Brom getting in a mid-table finish exactly, like having no playoff ambitions at all. I can just really see them being involved in a playoff battle. Watford, I can't put straight relegation, but I am going to put relegation battle. If things go wrong for this new manager, I have no idea who he is and what he's about. He used to manage at Real Valladolid, I believe, just being appointed as Watford manager. It could go one or two ways. It could go really well. He's done good jobs previously in the past, but it's just Watford, isn't it, at the end of the day? So I think they could be in and around the relegation. And that squad isn't the best squad. Tom Cleverley really got the best out of that squad last season. So going into the new season, new manager, a lot of question marks for Watford, and they're going to be predicted to be finished down at the bottom by, I think, a lot of people right now. Swansea City, I could put boring or playoff battle. I actually think they're going to be playoff battle, just because I feel like they're going to invest. They've got Luka Modric now as a part owner. Things seem to be looking quite up for Swansea, the way they finished last season as well. It ended up being a decent season, you'd say, for Swansea last season. So I'm actually quite optimistic with the signings that they might make. Of course, they're a team that's going to need a few transfers, but if they are willing to invest in the transfer market, which I think they might be, Swansea could definitely be in for a good season, in my opinion. They play very nice football. New manager looks like he's got them going. Obviously, it's a small sample size, so we don't know how it's going to properly go yet, but the early signs are good signs for Swansea City, I'd say, personally. Now, Sunderland, if let's say they don't go up, of course, they're in the playoff final. We also need to add Sheffield United as well. We'll talk about Sheffield United as well later in the video. But I think I put Sheffield United in a similar place. I think if Sunderland don't get promoted this season, I think they'll be pretty nailed on for playoffs next season. I'm not going to put them in automatic promotion, but I'd say that I'd be very confident in that side getting playoffs. You look at everybody getting a year older. You got very good fullbacks in Dennis Sirkin and Trey Hume. You got Bellingham if he stays. I don't know if he'd stay or not. Another year older, another year with experience. You got Chris Rigg, who's only going to get better as well. You're going to need a couple of signings. I think up top, I mean, Mayenda's an unbelievable player. Isidore, I have a few question marks about. He's very hit or miss. But if Sunderland invest well, which, to be fair, their recruitment's been very good over the last few years. Look at the players they've got that they can sell on for money. They've got a serious squad where they can sell a player for a decent fee and maybe reinvest that squad and really bolster the squad, which is what they maybe need a couple more players in certain areas. But Sunderland, I think, I've got really high hopes for if they don't go up in the Championship playoff final this season. But even if they do go up as well, I think they'll invest wisely. It'd be obviously hard for them to stay up in the Premier League if they got there, but I do back that Sunderland. I do back that Sunderland kind of higher ups in terms of getting the decisions right, which they have done over the last few years. So I think Sunderland have got a lot of promise in the future, even if they don't get promoted this season from the Championship. Now, Stoke, I'm going to have to go relegation battle. I just don't see things changing. Like, with what's going on with the kind of the FFP situation, I don't really know what's going on exactly with that, but they've definitely got their hands tied with their transfers. And you look at them, they've got the richest owners in the older EFL. but they just can't spend that money just due to the FFP, as I say. And I don't know if that's going to be continuing to hold Stoke back. Stoke are just a cursed club. Mark Robins is a very good manager, and even he's struggling with that Stoke side. He did well to keep them up in the end and just about steer them clear of relegation, but there's a lot of Stoke where there's just so much that can go wrong. It's a penitentiary. I've said it before. It's a penitentiary for managers. And it doesn't matter how good Stoke's squad might look, they just don't perform. It's just a thing with Stoke, isn't it? It's just the Stoke City way these days, which is sad to see. But I don't think they'll be getting much better than last season. I think they'll be fine for relegation, but I think they'll be one of them teams that are, again, looking over their shoulder. They're never really clear. Like, imagine, when's the last time we've even seen Stoke up in a playoff picture? Like, a genuine question. Have they even done it since they've come back, since they've come back down at any point in any season? I don't even think they have. But not that I can remember anyway. Right, Sheffield Wednesday. Again, Danny Rawl is looking like he's going to be on his way. And he's papered over the cracks. He's papered over the cracks at Sheffield Wednesday. So for me, they could be in trouble next season. They need investment. They're not going to get it. And, with the manager now going, they could be in serious trouble next season. It's sad to see because I do like Sheffield Wednesday. But I think they could be in trouble next season. They're going to be one of them teams I think it's going to be in and around that relegation picture, in my opinion. Now we're on to my club, QPR. We're not going to go automatic promotion, unfortunately. We're going to go relegation battle. I hate to say it, as a QPR fan. It's just worrying, to be honest, with what's going on with Marty. Is he still on garden leave? Is he going to stay next season? We invested a lot of money last season. We spent £8 million on transfers. Are we going to be able to sell anybody that's going to be able to fund us to spend money in this transfer window? Because I don't think we're just going to spend money just like it's, just without selling anyone. So I think we're in a bit of trouble next season. And as I say, players are leaving. Jimmy Dunn's probably going to leave on a free. Our best player last season. Such a key player to the way that we play our football. We might sign Donald Phillips. That'd be a great sign if we can bring him in. But then you're looking at Ronnie Edwards going, who was our best player in the second half of the season alongside Jimmy Dunn. Nicholas Madsen has not worked out at all as a transfer. Hopefully he can improve next season. He finished the season alright, but the signs with him and Sellers spent a lot of money on them. Not ideal. Of course, losing a lot of players from loans, contracts expiring. I'm not too confident going into next season. I think and hope we'll be fine, but I do think we'll be looking over our shoulder in terms of relegation battle. And there's going to be some good sides getting relegated this season as well, just due to the fact that the League One promoted teams do look very interesting as well. Right, so Preston North End, I think it's another, I'm going to go boring. Oh, you know what? No, I'm going to go relegation battle for Preston. They've lost a few players on free transfers. They lost to Emil Rees as well, who's on his way, which I think he's Preston's second top scorer in Championship history. I might be wrong saying that, but he scored a decent amount of goals for Preston. They're going to have to replace the players they've got rid of. Heckingbottom, I'm not so sure on. Again, I think it's going to be relegation battle. I'm not going to be too ballsy and put them in relegation because I don't think there's anybody. It's hard to really say. In terms of like guaranteed relegation, I think there really is a team. Maybe the team that comes up from League One in the playoffs, maybe. But the other ones, I just think it's going to be a big relegation battle. And we're going to get some decent and big Championship teams and some surprise teams. I think get relegated this season in the Championship when you look at the teams coming up. Portsmouth, I actually think that's boring. You can call it boring, but I think Portsmouth fans will absolutely take boring. Now, the reservations I have with Portsmouth are the fact that a couple of their loan players are going to be going back, especially the centre of the park. Freddie Potts was one of Portsmouth's player of the seasons. I'd say it was Josh Murphy, but Freddie Potts was an unbelievable asset to that Portsmouth team, and a loan player from West Ham, they're not getting him back. I think he can play a part, maybe a top end Championship club on a loan, a team fighting for promotion, or he can maybe even do a job at West Ham. The West Ham fans obviously think very highly of him. So that's one player. They had Isaac Hayden on loan as well, who's gone back to his parent club Newcastle. I don't know if he's going to sign permanently or not. They're going to midfield, they're going to season with a midfield of pretty much centre mid with just Dazelle, as far as I'm aware, which they're going to have to strengthen. Of course they will do. But for me, I think Portsmouth will be fine. John Mussini is a safe pair of hands, and Portsmouth, in my opinion, are going in the right direction. So I think they'll be fine and have a boring season, but that's a good season for Portsmouth, in my opinion. Oxford, do you know what? I've just got a feeling. Maybe I'm absolutely wrong, but they give me Plymouth vibes. They stayed up last season, and Plymouth looked nailed on for relegation. Now, Oxford, I think they're in a much better position than what Plymouth were in terms of the start of this season, where they don't have Wayne Rooney as a manager for a start. But I'm just not confident. I don't know why. Oxford I always thought they'll go down this next season. And the clubs, if you look at the club size of all these clubs in the Championship, there's some serious teams. So for me, I'm going to put Oxford into that relegation picture, in my opinion. Now, I might be wrong. They should probably be in relegation battle, but I'm going to put them in relegation. Norwich City, I'm going to go boring for Norwich again. I just think I'm not going to go as far as putting relegation, but I think Norwich is just too I don't know, I feel like I just can't see them being in a relegation battle. I think that they'll replace the players that are going to go. Borja Sainz is most likely going to be on his way. Josh Sargent's surely got to be on his way as well. That's 2 key players gone. There's going to be a few other players that are going to be outgoings as well for Norwich. So it's not looking ideal for them, but I just don't think Norwich will ever be in a relegation battle. I can just see them being sat comfortably in mid-table. I don't see them really pushing the playoffs as of right now. We'll see who they sign, of course. I don't know. I can't predict the future. But as of right now, I'm going to back Norwich for a boring season. Millwall, it's going to be a third boring season. A third boring season in a row, is that? I think I put them all in a row. I think Millwall are going to have another boring season. They're solid defensively, far from convincing going forward. Ivanovic could also improve a lot next season. He shows really good signs at the end of the season for Millwall. But I do think it'll be a boring season. They got close to the playoffs last season. They could be in and around the playoffs. Maybe I could bump them up a tier. But I think I think Millwall end up fading away. And I'm going to put them in boring. Maybe you could argue playoff battle, but I'm going to just put them in boring for now. Of course, I need to see the transfers as well. Right, Middlesbrough. I'm going to go playoff battle for Middlesbrough. I think they'll be in and around it. They always are. They're a team that's always in and around the playoff battle. They fell away at the end of the season, but they were still in the playoff battle and in the playoffs for the majority of the season, or at least very, very close to the playoffs for the majority of the season. Michael Carrick, there's huge question marks over with the way that he's got that team set up defensively. Middlesbrough need to invest in defenders. If you watched my TikTok, I was banging on about Middlesbrough in their January transfer window, saying they have to sign defenders. Like they ended up playing Johnny House, who did pretty well, by the way, in defence, but it's unacceptable to be doing that. They had a January transfer window to address it. They signed a bunch of forwards that didn't really work out. Morgan Whittaker, I don't even think scored a goal. He showed a few signs, but the amount of money they paid for him has not worked out so far. Ian Atcher was diabolical. So things just didn't work out for Middlesbrough in that January transfer window. In my opinion, that was the reason why they didn't end up getting players. Because you look at the teams in the playoffs, Coventry, Bristol City, both ended up losing. As a Middlesbrough fan, I think you've just got to think, like, you should have got in there. You should have got in there, and I think you would have given them a better game than what Coventry did well, to be fair, against Sunderland. They created, they tried, they dominated the game's terms of possession, but I think Middlesbrough would have put up a better fight than both teams in Bristol City and Coventry, in my opinion, in the playoff games if they made it, but all ifs and buts, they didn't make it. Hull City, relegation battle again, in my opinion. It's a shame with what's going on there. I don't know if Ruben Sellers what's going on with him at the moment, but it's not a good energy. You've got question marks over your manager going into the new season. Even if he does stay, that rumour coming out is just absolutely criminal, in my opinion, and for me, that's enough to put Hull in a relegation battle. They're going to need investment. They're going to, even though they've spent a lot of money on wages, they've brought a lot of players in that in January. They really invested and went, they went pretty big to stay up. It worked out in the end. We'll see what happens. Joe Gelhardt was very impressive for them as well when he signed on loan. I don't know if he's going to go back to Hull or what, but with Hull, I have a few question marks over. So relegation battle for me. Of course, we've got a lot of teams in that relegation battle, but that's just a championship. You look at how many teams almost got relegated in the final day. There's so many teams involved. That's just the way it is in the championship. There's a very close ability in between a lot of teams, in my opinion. There's not a lot between them. So all these teams I'm putting here, I don't think there's a lot between them going into the new season. It could really be anyone. Now, Derby County, I'm going to go boring. I think John Eustace, safe pair of hands. And I don't see Derby County being in a relegation battle, a full-on relegation battle, like they were last season under John Eustace. I think they're going to invest well. John Eustace might bring a few of his players that he knows, or bring in some players that John Eustace obviously wants to bring in, which are normally very good operators at championship level. So I absolutely back Derby County's recruitment, and I back Derby County and John Eustace in terms of having a decent season, which a boring season sat in mid-table comfortable is, I think Derby fans would take that after this season, just consolidate again in the championship and then build on it for future seasons going forward. This is definitely a season just to have a safety season, don't go near the relegation zone, and then go from there next season, in my opinion. I think it's a bit of a project that John Eustace has got going on, where he'll definitely be given time as well, by the way, which at Birmingham he didn't get given, and at Blackburn you obviously wanted to leave him just due to the fact the ownership issues were obviously pretty bad. So Coventry City next. Playoff battle or playoffs? A lot of it depends on the transfer window, but no, I'm going to go playoff battle. I've watched this Coventry team, and I know Frank Lampard's done a fantastic job in taking that Coventry staff and where were they, like 17th, to bringing them into the playoffs, to getting very close as well to Wembley, by the way. But the style of play, I was watching it, and it's just like they put so many balls into the box, which it can work. It can work against lower down opposition. Come up against the top team, Coventry have really struggled to break them down. I just think they're very one-dimensional in the way that they play. Now, that's not a criticism to Frank. Like, it is a criticism to Frank Lampard, let's be honest. But I'm not criticising Coventry because I think they'll do very well next season. But it's something that they definitely need to work on in terms of breaking down and having different ideas and being a bit more creative in terms of games that are going to be up against the teams around them at the top of the league. So that's why I'm not going to put Coventry in guaranteed playoffs, but I'm going to put them in the playoff battle. Now, Bristol City, I think they'll be in and around the playoff battle again. I think I've seen something about their problems with their ownership. Maybe he's not going to maybe not going to invest very much in the summer, and Bristol City fans aren't very happy. I'm not 100% sure on that. That's just what I've been seeing. And if that's the case, then maybe you could put them down to a boring season. But Liam Manning's a fantastic manager, and I think Bristol City will be in and around it again. They're going to have to invest. Like defensively, we saw in the playoffs they had injuries, of course, and suspension to Rob Dickey. They're going to need a few more, at least another defender in there, because they obviously have 3 centre-backs in their system. And they're going to need another goal scorer as well. If you want to really take this playoff seriously next season, in my opinion, they're going to have to swap it around up front. Naki Wells is a very good striker at Championship. I really like him. Obviously, he's getting a year older now. Sinclair Armstrong, I mean, obviously being a QPR fan, I know him very well. It just hasn't worked out at Bristol City. He's on his day, he can be very good. He's an absolute handful, there's no doubt. But he's the most frustrating player to watch in the Championship. Hands down, he's probably number one in terms of a forward player in the Championship. He's got to be up there anyway. Bristol City need to invest in a few areas, in my opinion, if they really want to get players. But I think they're going to be in and around it, as long as they've got Liam Manning as manager and they've got a good system in place, in my opinion. So Blackburn Rovers now. I'm going to go... I could put relegation battle to, but the problem is with Blackburn, it's Valérien Ismaël. If he starts the season slowly, which is very possible, then Blackburn fans will be on his back very quickly, in my opinion. He finished the season unbelievably well. I don't think Blackburn will go down, so I'm going to go boring. But it wouldn't surprise me. I could maybe put them in that slight relegation battle. I do worry about Blackburn with just the whole, with the Venkies and that. Things can go wrong very easily, and the fans can turn very quickly, and rightfully so. But I felt sorry. I said this at the start. I was very vocal in saying that I actually felt sorry for Valérien Ismaël coming into that job initially. A lot of Blackburn fans were at me saying that, he's a terrible manager. I never thought Valérien Ismaël was a really terrible manager. You see the job he did at Barnsley a few years ago. I know it's a while ago, but he's obviously got a style of play and a way of playing which has worked previously in the Championship, and he does need to be given time, give him a transfer window, and I do think he can do a good job at Blackburn, but it's just the pressure of the Venkies and the fans. I don't want things to go really badly for Blackburn in terms of the way they start the season, but I'm going to go boring. As I say, as they give Valérien Ismaël time, I actually really rate him as a manager, and it proved at the end of the season he turned it around, and it was a very difficult job to turn that around, and fair play to him, he did. Unfortunately, didn't get the players. We're very close in the end. Right, so we're on to the newly promoted teams. You'd imagine, or the relegated teams, you'd imagine these guys will be up there. Now, Ipswich, for me, it'll be a travesty if they don't win the league. I actually think it'll be a travesty if they don't win the league. I know they're going to probably lose Liam Delap. It looks like United are interested in him right now. I think Kayuste's probably going to go as well. I think he's on loan. I think they maybe had an option to buy, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be happening. It doesn't look like Kayuste's going to sign, which is their two best players in my opinion. But there's such a big gap between the Premier League and the Championship. Like you look at players like Leif Davis, he has struggled in the Premier League since he's got there. A lot of people had higher expectations. I mean, it hasn't really worked out. But then the guy at the Championship level was so good. And these players will just, they should absolutely piss the league. Seriously, they should absolutely piss the league. And they're going to probably invest a bit more as well into obviously replacements, maybe Delap, which they're going to need to do. The squad, I don't think it's going to change too much other than Kayuste and Delap. Is anybody else going to leave of note? I'm not so sure, not that I can think of anyway. That squad is absolutely good enough to walk the Championship in my opinion, and there's pressure on them to do it, to go ahead and do it, because obviously they've invested a lot of money in the Premier League. They're expected to bounce back just due to the money they spent in the Premier League, and parachute payments as well. They should walk the league, so I'm going to put Ipswich in automatic promotion. Now Leicester, there's such a big gap between the Championship and the Premier League. Like this Leicester team, they haven't even performed that badly. Now depends on what they're going to do in the transfer market. Obviously, they've got financial constraints against them. I'm going to go safe and go players for Leicester, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're right up there. It wouldn't surprise me if they're in the automatic promotion picture, to be honest. And I can't put 3 teams up there, because I think Southampton, now, I know they've only gone and got 12 points so far this season, but I look at the team and I think if Tyler Diblin stays, they've got Fernandez, you've even got players like Flynn Downs, who was good in the Championship last time, Harwood Bellis, you've got Ronnie Edwards coming back from loan. They've got somebody else out on loan as well, haven't they, as well? I'm trying to think. I can't even think right now. But I swear they've got another top player out on loan. Let me know if I can't remember. Maybe I'm just waffling. But yeah, they got a good core of players, but obviously not good enough for the Premier League. Now we'll see who moves where in the transfer window. But I think Southampton will be right up there. I'm not going to go automatic. because I think it'll be close between these 40. I think it could be these 4 right up there. I think Ipswich should lead the way, and these 3 are going to be battling guaranteed playoffs, in my opinion, or at least should be. And then they could be all battling for automatic. So those 3 teams could be battling for automatic. Right, Birmingham City. Could you go playoff battle? Or is that just too far? Because I think they will. Like, I look at the ambition that these guys are showing. That squad's already good enough to finish mid-table in the Championship. And I'm predicting these guys are going to be, they're going to flex a bit more of their financial muscle in the Championship again. I don't think they'll get playoffs. I don't think they will get playoffs. But I do think they could be in the picture. I think maybe getting the players to step too far. But you look at these teams around them. If Birmingham invest well, they could very easily maybe just sneak a playoff place. Who knows? But I'm going to put Birmingham in at playoff battle. I have high hopes of them. I think they'll be absolutely fine for relegation. I don't think that's a question. Now, Wrexham, I'm going to go relegation battle. Now, their current squad is guaranteed nailed on relegation championship. But they're going to spend. They're going to bring in a couple of big name players who are probably at the end of their career but offer great experience. And they've still got some players that I think can really compete at championship level there in the squad. But they're going to need a lot. They are going to need a lot. They've got some good players in the team, as I say. Like, you look at them defensively, they're the best defensive team or the most clean sheets in the whole of League One. So they're going to be decent defensively, you'd imagine, in the Championship. Goals could be a little bit of an issue. They're going to need another striker, in my opinion, despite the fact they've got loads. Sam Smith can definitely make their step up there, in my opinion. Stephen Fletcher off the bench could maybe chip in with a couple of goals. Rathbone in midfield, I like. So there's a lot to like about the Wrexham team, but there's also a lot, this is going to be a big jump for these players. So they're going to need help, they're going to need investment, in my opinion. And I think they'll get it, and I do think they'll still be in a relegation battle. But I think they'll stay up. But I think they'll be in a relegation battle, in my opinion. Now, Leyton Orient, this could be Leyton Orient, it could be Charlton, it could be Wycombe. Whoever goes up, in my opinion, they go straight back down. They're going to need a lot of investment. Whoever goes up is going to need serious money put into that. Say it is Leyton Orient. Of course, they've gone to Wembley at the time of recording this tonight. They beat Stockport. You look at them, they've got Donnelly on loan from Tottenham. The keeper is on loan as well, from Tottenham as well. And Charlie Kelman's on loan from QPR. So those are 3 of Leyton Orient's key players that are going to be have been influential if they do go on to get promoted. They're going to need serious investment and some serious loans. They utilise the loan market in League One so well, but is the Championship a step too far? Potentially, but there's no guarantee they'll go down. They'll be in and around. The Championship's very close. Things can happen, and anything can happen in the Championship. As I said at the start of the video, it is the most unpredictable league of them all. So I've got Oxford and Leyton Orient in for relegation. By the way, let me know how you think your team's going to get on in the comment section down below. Relegation battle, I've put 6 more teams in there, which is pretty valid. You always have that bottom section of the table. So those are the teams that I think will be in that bottom section of the table. Boring table, starting mid-table, I've gone for those teams. Playoff battle, there's always a few teams in and around the playoffs. And then we've got the teams that I think are guaranteed to playoffs / battling for automatic promotion. And we've got my title winners, in my opinion, Ipswich Town. So as I say, let me know what you think of that in the comment section down below. Let me know how you think your team's going to get on. Be very greatly appreciated if you could hit subscribe on the channel as well, by the way. Daily Championship content. If you watch this point, please do hit subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you wouldn't mind helping me out, it really would mean a lot to me. And drop a like if you enjoyed the video as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.